just received a
Around the world in 70 days. Sam, tell me a little bit about what's your best things about traveling and your worst things about traveling.
The best things about traveling is going to new places, experiencing new cultures, breaking records.
Absolutely.
The worst things about traveling are traveling.
Oh yeah, exactly. I was just thinking about it. I thought that for me, if you could teleport, would be fantastic,
particularly
right?
for you.
Yeah.
The busiest man in MMA.
Just hate traveling. I mean, when I say hate traveling, it's just the process of traveling.
Yes.
I would love to be in that place.
Yeah.
But it's just that process of going around the world. I think it's crazy, but
Particularly to China. That's quite a lengthy journey and a few stops, that one.
oh yeah, definitely. I've never been to China, by the way.
Nor have I.
It's going to be interesting. I was always looking forward to it. I think it was, for me, from childhood, I always wanted to be in China because all my inspirations has always been from, we're allowed to watch only certain styles of movies.
Yeah.
We couldn't, when I was growing up, we couldn't watch Titanic, for example.
Right.
That's not allowed to watch those kind of movies. But we ended up watching a lot of martial arts movies, so watching these martial arts movies, Jackie Chan, Jet Li's, I always had this dream that I want to go and join the Shaolin schools. And be there and go through that regimen that they go through, get my head shaved and, be there.
I've got that bit.
Yeah, you're halfway through on that one. I think that's always been a dream. So I'm really excited that we're going to China as Brave, but personally for me as well to go to China, it's amazing. So around the world in 70 days, I think that's really interesting. What are the countries we're going? 70 days. I think it's just out of my head. Do you know what are the countries?
China, Pakistan, Bulgaria, Holland, Slovenia, Tenerife.
Spain.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. Listen, I was not purposely, but when you're giving the names of the countries, I don't know why you mentioned Tenerife and not Spain. Is there something personal with that?
Not at all. It's just Tenerife is a Canary island which belongs to Spain. It's just separate.
You sure?
Yeah, it belongs to Spain.
Okay.
But it is a separate it's not in Spain. It's a Canary island off Spain.
Yeah. Talking about the countries, I just felt like you had an issue with taking Spain as a country.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. The Euros.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Oh yeah, you see, I knew you was teeing me up for that.
To be honest, you just reminded me. I had no idea. How did that go?
Not very well, mate.
Yeah.
Not very well. The 58 years of hurt continues.
Did you watch the finals?
I did watch it, yeah.
How did you feel? Take us through your emotions.
I'll sum it up. Standard England final. Standard feelings, standard performance, standard disappointment.
What do you think they should change?
Well,
it's an MMA podcast, but yes, we got to talk a little bit.
We've got to get it.
Yeah,
we've got to get it. I know you've been waiting for this moment. So
I wasn't. You didn't mention Spain, so I was just wondering. That's why.
Okay. Changes. I think the right change has been made. I think Southgate out. I just think his achievements have been amazing. He's been successful in the fact that England have gone the furthest in a long time under him. I just don't think he knows how to play the team right. So getting someone in with fresh ideas, I think can get the better out of some of the players. I know he's done well to create a culture and everyone wants to play for England again, but that doesn't translate to winning anything, does it?
What a fantastic team, though.
Fantastic team. I just don't know if they're at their full potential. Yeah. I don't know if his way of playing is matching their capabilities. I mean, if you look at the forwards we got, we don't really play very forward football, do we?
Talking about getting a Spanish coach in.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, imagine that.
Yeah.
You lose against Spain in the Euros and you're looking for a Spanish coach.
Kind of makes sense, really.
Yeah.
You see it in MMA, like Sean Strickland and Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira knocked out Sean Strickland, and then he went to train with him. That's not the first case. You see it quite a lot.
True.
And then since then, look at the trajectory he's gone on. So
And yeah, I mean, if you look at the history of Spanish coaches, I mean, it's crazy how well they're doing. There's something in Spain about these coaches. I mean, you look at Xabi Alonso and what he's been doing,
Yeah.
Arteta in
Arteta, yeah.
Arsenal,
Yeah.
Pep Guardiola. I mean, it's insane how many good quality coaches are actually coming from
100%.
Spain. And I think that's a smart choice. I mean, I know that there's always that thought in international football that you got to get a coach who's actually a national.
Yeah.
But I don't think.
Ain't worked for us, is it?
Yeah. I mean, you got to get the best, at the end of the day.
The FA are talking about bringing in Pep Guardiola or waiting for his contract to finish. I certainly wouldn't be against Pep Guardiola.
You would be against.
You
wouldn't be against Pep Guardiola.
God,
I don't think anybody would be against
No.
Pep Guardiola. And it's just crazy how just his style of football, you don't have to have him as a coach, but you just emulate that style of football anywhere else, and you just still have a chance of being in the top of the division.
Well, look at Foden, for example. Premier League Player of the Year 2024.
Yeah.
In England, his stats are 0-0-7. 0 goals, 0 assists, 7 games.
It's crazy. And you think the Ballon d'Or is going to go for Bellingham?
Based on his season, yeah. Based on the Euros, no.
Yeah.
Although he did
I
score
think,
that
yeah.
wonder goal.
Yeah.
There will be statues.
You
of
wouldn't
him
be
in
where
the
you
UK.
are.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
it's
yeah.
true. It's true.
Yeah. Now, anyways, getting back
Please,
to
let's
MMA.
move on from England.
Getting back to Brave, exciting time. We've always spoke about traveling around the world. I think we've traveled so much, but this is for us, like you're looking at these 70 days to travel to 6 different countries.
Yeah.
It's something that showcases, again, that we always talk about how important it is to go around the world, go to every different country, and in the vision and strategy of what we want to do as Brave, you have to do the hard work, and the hard work as an organization is to travel around the world and make sure that you give these talents the opportunity to compete in their own countries, but at the same time to have the athletes to be able to compete internationally in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of mixture that we're seeing. And to go into China, and we're looking at Asia, right? I mean, there's a lot of records, like you said, being broken. And I think it's definitely one of those records, or the extension of a record rather than breaking, is 33 countries. China is going to be the 33rd country that we're traveling to.
And tying with the record in Asia, 13.
13 countries. And that just shows that where we are in Asia, tying as the most hosted MMA organization. We're looking at Europe, and I think Bulgaria will be the actual record breaking. I don't know if it is a 16th country that we're traveling.
Record extending.
Yeah. That would be what? 15th European country. So
try to upsell it a little bit.
Well, you just break records everywhere, and it's never been about mixed martial art, and a lot of people. Of course, we're in the industry of mixed martial arts, so we always keep having to tell the actual news and the facts that we are the most global mixed martial art organization today. We're breaking the records of mixed martial art industry in terms of the amount of countries that we've traveled to, been hosted in, but we always set sights on the international sports, and that's something that a lot of people within the MMA industry don't realize, that we are not in the business of competing with other MMA organizations. I mean, we've said that from the beginning. Everybody can fight for the first place and the second place. Who's the number 1, who's the number 2, who's the number 3. Since the beginning of Brave in 2016, we've said that very clearly, that we're here to change the sport of mixed martial art. We're here to reform the industry of mixed martial art. We're trying to compete with what are the best practices in the sports industry, and we're trying to bring the sports industry, the private sector, and the government to integrate with the sport of mixed martial art and take mixed martial art into that level of the international sports. And that's always been our goal. And yes, we're breaking records in the MMA world, but that's never been the bar that we set. It's always about competing with the international sports around the world, whether it's football, whether it's cricket, and that's something that we've always been looking forward to, and we think that MMA deserves to be there.
100%, yeah.
And I think I still remember the early days that we were very clear about what we want to do, and we kept saying that while the world is fighting towards who's the best organization in the world, who's the best here and there. We've always strived on trying to create a new system.
Yeah.
And I always give the example of once upon a time we all loved and fought for which friend or which relative has the next 3310s or 3360s, and there was these numbers of mobiles and the shapes that we were always chasing. And one fine day we woke up and we don't know what happened to that brand called Nokia, we don't know. It was one of the biggest brands. It was not that there was another brand competing with it. It was the biggest brand that everybody knew of. And one fine day it didn't exist anymore. And you're looking at today that we forgot that that was one of the biggest brands because Apple came and brought in a new system.
Yeah.
And that system was, sure, a lot of people misunderstood that it was just about the system or something innovative. And it is not just about innovation, because you did have people who did the innovation like Blackberries. And in our industry, you do have a lot of Blackberries that are bringing innovation.
Yeah.
But the difference between Apple is they are a 360-degree solution. And it is that ecosystem in your life that we're bringing the innovation with becoming a part of your life. And it's a lifestyle. And that's what MMA is for us. We are the Apple of mixed martial art, and we're not there to just bring in innovation and a new model. We're creating that global ecosystem, and every country that we go to, we're creating that national ecosystem. So it would be a shame to not go and be in a country that is widely considered as the destination or the origin of martial arts, and that's China. And like I said, one of the biggest inspiration for a lot of people, I think, around the world, many of the guys who wanted to practice martial arts, not fighters, I mean, but not only just fighters, but just random people who just want to be interested in martial arts and enter into martial arts, was because of either Bruce Lee's or Jackie Chan's or Jet Li's, you know?
Yeah.
And that's been crazy, because my inspiration, or I wouldn't say in terms of, I would say that the thought to put that seed in my head has always been the Chinese martial arts movies, you know. So I was a big fan of Chinese martial arts movies. I think I must have watched every single movie of Jackie Chan and Jet Li. Definitely Bruce Lee for sure, you know. Yeah. So growing up, I loved these characters. I loved the way, the messages that they were sharing through these movies as well. So they definitely was an inspiration. Who was your favorite martial arts movie actor?
I like Jackie Chan. I like the comedy side of it. I like it, I liked his stuff. And then when he went over to Rush Hour and stuff, so although he started off as a martial arts guy, I like how he's branched out and does his comedic value as well.
Because he took it to the next level. I think Bruce Lee was that guy that was tough and you can't do nothing to him. You could take some blades and, you know, scratch his chest, he would still be standing there. You know, you could do anything and he would be that tough guy standing. And then you have Jackie Chan who comes in and shows that it's okay to feel pain. I could punch you and I could hurt my hand at the same time.
It's funny,
you know,
it's funny.
So he gave that idea that it's okay to not always be tough and show toughness. And that was a different direction that we've not seen before in the action movies or martial arts movies. I mean, anybody you look in the action world, whether it's Steven Seagal or Van Damme or anybody, all was tough guys, you know? Like you couldn't...
very stoic.
And you shouldn't feel pain or any of those, you know, that kind of guys. But then Jackie Chan comes in and he changes the whole perspective and says that, no, I'm going to get hurt. I am going to slip and fall. You know, all those things are going to happen. So I think that's where a lot of people could relate to him more.
Yeah, that's a bit
and understood him better.
The comedy side. I like that.
No, it's really exciting. And... listen, talking about China, and we're talking about this particular event, I think there was no better way, and the excitement is not just about going to China, which is great, but at the same time, this is going to be Brave Combat Federation versus YUF, and a lot of people who don't know YUF, they must have heard it as WLF internationally, and it is one of the YFU, so YFU shit. I heard it as WLF as well. So, but just recently, I came to know from one of our colleagues that they do have different names internationally and nationally. And then I know WLF for a very long time, and that was my interest for making this happen. You know, this collaboration was always about the history of what they have done in the sport of mixed martial art in China.
They've done over 112 shows across different martial arts, kickboxing,
Yeah.
MMA, you name it. I mean, you look at some of the world's biggest stars now. You've got Israel Adesanya, you've got Cedric Doumbé. These are two hot names in MMA right now. They fought on these shows.
Yeah. And it's been there forever, right? I mean, 21, 22 years of 21 years, and it's been there, you know. And this was one of those early organizations that started in China, and a lot of people don't give respect to these early organizations. You know, you have to understand that when you start early, we're talking today about reforming the mixed martial art industry from where it is today into a sports business. But where it is today has taken a long way and a serious journey to be here, you know, and a lot of people don't understand what these organizations have gone through. So when you're talking about an organization that started as one of the first organizations in China, and at the same time one of the first organizations in the world, at that time you didn't have a lot of people accepting what mixed martial art is or understand what mixed martial art is. So to be there in China and start in 2002, 2003, somewhere around that time, WLF has been around since then, you know. So they've done everything in the beginning, as everybody loved to watch. It was always martial art versus martial arts. So they've done those. They've done China versus multiple countries, you know. But it's the first time we're gonna do a Brave Combat Federation versus WLF, YFU. This is gonna be the first promotion versus promotion event, and I've always loved the idea of promotion versus promotion, and I think that adds a lot of interest, not just from country-wise, but it's also a lot to do with the people who have been part of that organization. So that's exciting.
It opens doors as well. You never know where this could lead to.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of potential big events that could spawn from this, you know?
Absolutely. And we've asked, I mean, to be honest, we've kept saying that there's no question that Brave has been one of the most, an organization that has been pro co-promotion, working with other organization. I don't know about the numbers, but I do believe that there's not many organizations in MMA or combat sports that has done as many co-promotions as Brave Combat Federation. So that clearly shows our interest. And to be honest, I can't talk a lot about this, but we definitely did go out there since the early days to a lot of organizations, a lot of, you know, the back end work that we have put in to be where we are today. A lot of people don't understand that, but we have spoken to a lot of organizations trying to make this organization event. And I think that there's only good coming out of it. I mean, definitely one of the fears people have is that what if my organization loses or my fighters lose in our organization? And that's the fear. And for me, I just don't understand that, because in the end of the day, it's great fights. It's opening doors to watching better fights. At the same time, like you said, an opportunity for a lot of athletes to God knows where that they would have never got that opportunity, and to be able to showcase their talent internationally. You know, and I think there's only good coming out of it, and the fans are going to enjoy it.
100%.
And I don't understand where the fear comes from for all of this cross
Have some
promotions.
pride in your athletes.
I mean, all athletes, right? I mean, what are you trying to do every single day as the head of athlete relations, right? You're trying to put the best fights on, best against the best, where people can enjoy and see actual fights. And that's the priority, you know? So when you have two promotions...
It's the forefront of everything. It's not even a priority. It's the forefront of what you do.
Absolutely. And when you can go to an organization that's done everything for the sport of mixed martial art, very similar to what Brave has done, WLF has done in their country. You know, so when you have an organization like that has been pro in creating combat sports festival, similar to what Brave International Combat Week is, and which will be another topic during this travel around the world in 70 days, we are going to talk about the Brave International Combat Week. But YFU has done that. They have done combat festivals in China. They have done cross-country competitions. They have done cross martial arts events. So I'm glad that the first cross-promotion event is going to be the Brave, and we are happy and really honored to have that collaboration with YFU.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think? Today, I know that there's going to be a long topic, but I just want to go through Team Brave Combat Federation, and I would definitely let this be around the world in 70 days part 1. because we got to do a part 2 or maybe a part 3 as well, because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to be a 7-hour long podcast, which definitely we can easily.
Oh, we have that ability.
Yeah, easily we could go on and get that done. But I want to talk about Team Brave in part 1 and understand, one, when you have an organization like WLF or YFU, who has been in the market for 21 years, doing everything in the MMA industry, we know that they have the talent and they have the market of MMA fighters in China, and they understand the sport as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's going to be a team that's going to come on board, that's going to be Team YFU, and it's going to be a serious challenge. But at the same time, we're looking at Team Brave. And what is your first impression?
I think Team Brave's a good mix. You've got some veterans in there. You've got some guys that fought for titles. You've got some contenders in there. You've got some prospects in there. I'm really excited. I mean, if we look at the main event to start, you got Bidzina. I'm going to absolutely butcher his name. He's got quite a challenging Gavieshvili. I've butchered that. But Bidzina is for sure fighting to become the next flyweight contender.
Absolutely.
We saw him in his debut at Brave 72 or 71, where, let's face it, he dismantled Mohammed Idrisov.
Yeah.
And we were blown away. He looked super impressive in that. He's fought in China before with WLF many times. And I'll be honest, a lot of the Chinese guys from WLF did not want to fight him. He was, we were presented with a few options, and then when we give them Bidzina, no, they didn't want him. They know him from back in China. They didn't, so we changed tack a bit, but Bidzina will be fighting. 8 wins by stoppage, 6 of them by submission. I generally believe he's the next Brave flyweight contender.
Yeah, we've mentioned this before when we are looking at Bidzina's fights as well. You're a combat sambo bronze medalist, and anyone that comes from the combat sambo background, we know the quality and the experience that they have in mixed martial art and how well they do in mixed martial art.
Yeah.
But then Bidzina is that, yes, he does have the combat sambo background, and we know his achievements in combat sambo, but he's also he's one of those fighters that also understands MMA really well.
Yes.
He knows how to get that win, and fearless. So for me, I think to have him lead Team Brave, and especially we were really looking forward to seeing him fight earlier this year.
Yeah.
And that fell out.
It did, yeah, unfortunately.
So it's good to see him back and see how I think a win in China at an event of this magnitude representing Brave, I think he'll be putting all his cards on the table to say that
I'm your guy.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah,
And that's the way to make some noise at the flyweight division.
Yeah, 100%. And then we talk about contenders. We'll go into divisions, I'm sure, a bit later. But bantamweight division for Brave is a very strong division. We have a very strong champion. We've got very strong contenders. And one of those guys is climbing the ranks and making a claim for himself is Borislav Nikolic.
Yeah. I always felt like he's one of those athletes that somehow is overlooked. And it always, I just feel like he's underrated athlete. I mean, it might be, I don't know, the persona and the way he comes out, but I don't know.
I think because he is so good, he's had hard fights, and unfortunately he lost 2 of them in Brave. But when you look at those 2 defeats, it's to Brad Katona, who's former world champion, and Gamzat Magomedov, who fought Brad for the belt. Absolutely. So if they're your only 2 losses in Brave, then it might have derailed some people's confidence in him or underrate him. But if you look at it properly, and I believe they were decisions that he lost to in the, and they're world class fighters.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're looking at like it's just not about how good. Yes, absolutely. He fought against his loss are against one of the best in the world. He fought Brad and Gamzat for sure. But at the same time, uh, these are those fighters that I love in Brave Combat Federations, which we can really call as brave fighters.
Yeah.
Because like Borislav really is a true soldier of Brave Combat Federation.
100%,
You know, he takes any fight, anything that comes in front of him. And when we talk about these losses with Gamzat and Brad Katona, that also shows that there was never a question from his end that is that a good matchup for me or not. He jumps in and he takes the fights. He doesn't wait for 5-6 fights to get the hang of in the organization and understand the organization better and feel good, and then jump into the big boys. You're talking about coming into Brave and fighting these big fights. And there's a lot of athletes, if you look at Brave, and we go through many fighters today between the events, and you'll see a lot of these athletes that have done this, and how between us, to be clear, and for all the athletes that are watching, these are the brave fighters. These are the guys that you really want to value, and these are the guys that are out there that wants to. It's not just about recklessness. It's seriously about being brave enough to understand what this organization is about, what opportunity that they're getting, and what they can do with this opportunity. And they want to utilize that opportunity and definitely have the belief in themselves. They are the best fighters. So when you have that belief that you're the best fighter and you have an organization that's going to help you reach there, why not go and take the big fights,
I think that's a great description of how Borislav carries himself as well. If you spend any time with him, he is quite, I'll use the word stoic again. He does have that belief in himself. I mean, I don't want to overlook his last performance either, where he's coming off a first round knockout of Ali Guliev. Took his O. Ali Guliev was undefeated going to that, 4 higher weight classes. It was fairly difficult to match him at times because people were not sure about him, didn't want to fight him, whatnot. He comes down a weight division and Borislav knocks him out in the first round.
Yeah.
A guy that seemed invincible.
Yeah, but if you think about it, if you really look at it, even then, everybody knows the quality of Borislav. But then when the fight happens, of course, Kuliev is a fantastic fighter, top-class world athlete. Even then, you completely overlook Borislav, and everybody was like, it was a complete focus on Ali Guliev is going to win that fight easy. And a lot of people had that, not to take anything from Ali Guliev, great, like I said, great fighter. But there was nothing put on Borislav, and no confidence in him. But
even after, Guliev's team couldn't believe it. Yeah. They almost caused some issues in the cage afterwards because their boy had been beaten. This is unthinkable. That's how much they believed in him. It was one of those moments where it's rare in MMA. Like, often losses are part of the game, and often they're respected and they're understood. This was one of those ones where it was a bit emotional. You see it sometimes when you have so much belief in your guy, and that happens. You can't control your emotions. That was one of those situations.
Oh yeah, and that's that's something I think in the MMA world we see a lot of the condiments and the team that gets involved in a lot of decisions, whether it's with the referee, the opponent team, and that's something that you definitely want to avoid. And sometimes you do understand why that happens as well. Like you said, a lot of emotions flying in. But I want to ask you a question about. Is this something to do with fighters that are slightly taller for the weight classes? Do you think that historically you always looked at them and never felt that, what do you say, the feeling of that guy looks scary, because he's slightly taller, so he doesn't have that jacked,
that muscular compactness,
Yeah, I think Borislav his bantamweight, but he might be around 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah, he is tall. He's tall. He's very tall. He's very well drilled. Great boxing.
I think somehow that
he's not the most intimidating looking bloke.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, true. And I think that's what I'm getting to. I think guys who are taller for the weight class don't have to work twice as hard to look,
particularly at that weight.
Yeah.
Particularly at 61 kilos when they have to come down.
True.
Like, if you look at Nkosi, for example, very tall for the weight class. Very muscular, but very stretched. You know what I mean? He hasn't got that compactness that you see at that weight a lot of the times because he is so big and has to cut so much weight to get to 61. They don't look the most intimidating, but my God, they can fight.
Yeah, I think Borislav is gonna. I think that's interesting to have a guy that's almost as tall as Nkosi in that weight division. And listen, bantamweight division. We've just finally seen the decision of the trilogy between Nkosi and Shorty. So without a doubt, there's no question about. We're talking about the first two fights, the flyweight division as well.
Yeah.
If like what Shorty is planning to move into the flyweight division, I think.
And that's a fight. Shorty Torres and Bidzina.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you look at the flyweight division,
Yeah.
with Shorty going into the flyweight division, that's just adds a lot of interest into this fight of Bidzina. So that the flyweight division just got a lot more interesting.
Yes.
And Bidzina, I'm sure, has an eye that this is where he's going to represent Brave, and actually, literally representing Brave. It's not that you're fighting in Brave.
Yeah.
You are representing Brave in a promotion versus promotion event. So Brave Combat Federation versus YFU, and Bidzina is going to be leading that. So for him, he has a statement to be made there, and that makes the flyweight division so much more interesting. And we will go to the flyweight division, but at the bantamweight division, Borislav, I think there's not going to be a question with him being in the co-main event again in a promotion versus promotion event to win this fight. I think he's right there in the mix. And but bantamweight division, I think, like I said, in the trilogy fight of Nkosi with Shorty, a lot of people have been waiting in line to get that shot. I think when you're looking at the guys like Velimurad, you're looking at Hamza Kohiji, now Borislav added to that list. Huende, yeah, I think they're all in the queue to get that fight. So
and there's if Borislav gets through this one, there's one more in the queue, that's for sure.
Absolutely, a very interesting weight class. So I'm excited really to see how Borislav does in this fight. And he knows that it's not going to be easy winning this fight and being in that bantamweight division. There's a lot of fights out there that can be made. And anyone in that weight class fighting against each other is a good fight.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Moving on from the bantamweight division.
What's next?
A guy that has been in the bantamweight division, Izzadine Al-Dabani.
Okay.
When we talk about Middle Eastern veterans or Middle Eastern stars, Izzadine Al-Dabani has to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
He's fought the who's who in all the Middle Eastern promotions. He is the Middle East guy. He's one of the legends.
Yeah.
He's moving back up in weight and making his Brave Combat Federation debut at featherweight. Now, for me, this is one of the most exciting things because I believe this is where we see Izzadine's full potential. I've always thought bantamweight's the wrong division for him, purely because he's cut too much weight. It's one of those examples in MMA where you see guys that think they'll have an advantage when they go down, but cut too much weight and never live up to their full potential. And then you see them move up a division and fulfill that potential. Izzadine's a guy that had this potential, tried his luck at bantamweight, and is now returning back. And hopefully we'll see that future success. And when I talk about that future success, 95% of his wins have come from higher weight classes.
Yeah.
He was 8-2 at featherweight and 5-0 at lightweight. So combined 13 out of 14 wins have been at higher weight classes.
Statistics are important.
At bantamweight, where he's only fought with Brave, he's 1-2. Which is crazy when you look at his success in other weight classes. I cannot believe he hasn't made it sooner. Yes, granted, he's fought some fantastic opponents, but still, I think August 9th in China, we see the best Izzadine Al-Dabani we have seen yet.
Listen, thank you for making this happen. I think really to have Izzadine back at featherweight, you have no idea how excited I am. I mean, we're actually going to see Izzadine as Izzadine, Yes. I mean, no question. I mean, that's why I jumped in and said the statistics are important because when we signed him to Brave, he could we're looking at Azzeddin Darbani, right? Like he could fight anybody. He's one of the best fighters out there. He's been one of the most experienced fighters in the Middle East, and if he needs to showcase his talent to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So if he said that I'm going to go into the bantamweight division, we say go into the bantamweight division. He says that I want to go into the strawweight division, I would say yes at that time. You know,
Why would we not?
Yeah, he's been one of the best, and what's best for him, he's going to make that decision, and we want to see the best Azzeddin.
Yeah.
Today, I think it's a very intelligent move from Azzeddin, and
It took some persuading.
oh yeah, that's why I gave you the fist bump there. You know, so to make sure that, because we really want to see the best of him.
Yes.
And statistics are important. When you look at it, when you say that 95% of your win came from the higher weight class, why would you want to go into a weight class that's different?
Yeah.
You know, you want to be there where you've had the most success, and that would be what any team coach would tell you. If you are a player for a team and they had to make the best decision for the team, they're going to look at the statistics and tell Azzeddin that you're going to fight at featherweight. That's what we want you to do.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, you're going to do that, you know. And that's how it's going to be. And to have him fight at featherweight, and that's the thing. You go into bantamweight where you don't have the best history yet. To go into bantamweight in Brave Combat Federation, I think his debut was against Shorty.
It was.
That shows that, you know, that's everything you get from Azzeddin. You have to know this fighter. I mean, if you've seen his energy at the weigh-ins, we've seen his energy at
Particularly that weigh-in as well. He entered Brave Combat Federation with a bang.
And that's in the public weigh-ins.
Yeah.
Imagine he didn't have a tough weight cut.
Yeah.
You're going to see a different energy from him.
100%.
You're going to see 10x of the energy that you saw him at the bantamweight weigh-ins, you know. So that's the energy we want him to bring in, and that's the energy I think it's always been a part of Azzeddin's career, and people know him with that personality of a little crazy, positive, and a finisher, you know.
Yeah.
And we always want to see the best of him. At the age he is, we want him to showcase that to the whole world, and I'm really excited that it's going to happen.
And I'll say it again. August 9th, we see the best Azzeddin Darbani we've seen.
Absolutely. I mean, you're looking at... See, Azzeddin has been... I've been following this guy since I think it was the reality show. I think it was a reality show, Al Batal. And he was part of that reality show. And I've been following this guy since that time. Yeah. So he's always been part of that history of Middle East, right? Middle East sports, whether it's Desert Force, whether it's UAE Warriors, whether it's Al Batal, the reality show. He's been there everywhere in the Middle Eastern world, and known as this Muay Thai striking guy. But he's so if you think about it, he's actually started fighting in MMA since what, 11, 12 years back. It's over a decade he's been in mixed martial art, and that experience is priceless. And all that time, the amount of time he spent in over a decade in Middle Eastern MMA, he's getting the opportunity to be that Azzeddin Darbani at featherweight in Brave. Listen, this is what we've been waiting for.
He's one of the guys. This situation happens sometimes, but with special fighters, often when we sign a fighter, it's a discussion. We do, you know, we're very proud of our scouting systems, and the athletes we've had over the years is evident, and still do. Azzeddin didn't come through the scouting process. Azzeddin's name hit my desk because you said, go and sign him. I was like, okay, yeah, I know that guy. And then you look into him, you're like, okay, yeah. It's rare that we have these situations where you're like, sign him.
Yep.
And Azzeddin is one of those guys.
Absolutely. You can't... I mean, and this is to all the Arab MMA fans, right? Everybody in the industry, or people who are fighters, coaches, everyone in this industry that wants to see Arab fighters prosper at an international level. And this is something we started with. His Highness Sheikh Khalid said this in 2016 and 17, where he mentioned that the goals are clear to develop the sport of mixed martial art in the region.
Yeah.
And that's where we really understood the importance of taking this Arab fighters and showcasing their talents internationally. And I don't think today or ever there has been an international organization that is being able to do that. And I'm sure that the intentions are right, but nobody is able to understand why that's not working. And we know that what we have done for the Arab fighters, and where we have taken them at, in the international level, but that's where when I spoke to you about it, I felt like, how could we miss Izzeddin when we have the likes of Hashim Al-Khaga, we have Jarrah Salawi, we have Muhammad Fakhruddin, we had all of these guys, Hamza Kohiji, all of these biggest names in Arab mixed martial art is having the opportunity to fight in Brave and showcase the talent. And then you're looking at a guy who's been there for a decade and have not got that opportunity. It
was his time.
I couldn't take it. I knew that it's his time to make that happen. But yes, we haven't got to see, and that's why I was mentioning that all the MMA fans who loved Izzeddin Darbani and followed him like I did from the early days, a decade back, are going to be really happy with this news that he's going back, and we're going to see the actual Izzeddin Darbani at featherweight division, where he's supposed to be, where he was the best at, and we want to bring that back.
100%. I'm going to move on a little bit because while we're talking about Arab fighters, also, and at the start I mentioned that we have a mix of guys here, and I mentioned the word prospect. Mohammed Al-Samir, Bahrain's next superstar, is also on this card.
Yeah, listen. Apple is Apple for a reason, right? There is a reason for it. I mean, whether it's your iPads or iMacs or whatever, this really bad with technologies, but all the things around you, that eventually gets you the result.
Yes.
And the result in their industry might be actually getting hooked with the Apple services.
Yeah.
But in our world, the result is building a new talent, young talent, and making them into world champions. I mean, there's no better feeling than seeing that happen. So when we keep speaking about ecosystem since 8 years, guess what? Now you're seeing the actual result of it. If you look at Bahrain, the talents that are coming out of Bahrain, we're looking at a team of 50 young wrestlers in our youth wrestling team. It's insane to see these kids and the quality of these young guys, and we're seeing that in all the different sports we have. We're looking at the upcoming Olympics in Paris. We're seeing world champion in wrestling. We're at 21 years old. So there's a lot of result that comes out of it. But when you see in mixed martial art what we've done over the past 8 years, and we're seeing the most decorated amateur. I mean, I don't think there's another Arab-born fighter at his age that has the potential that he has and that has achieved what he's
is as well decorated
as him.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think, listen, from a sports perspective, like being a sports fan, one of the biggest fears you have is when you see those golden talents at such a young age. And we're looking at Samir and we're seeing that individual that has everything at a very young age. He's got the charisma, he's got the personality, he's got the talent, he's got the achievements, he's got the dedication, and everything that needs to be there. He's been training MMA since he was 12 years old.
Yeah,
So he's been there. I mean, the early sports in life as a kid you enjoy and you start doing, that's MMA for him.
and look at the tutelage he's had. Head coach of Eldar Eldarov, the super lightweight world champion of Brave Combat Federation. His idol, Hamza Kohiji, the pride of Bahrain. He's mixing with the likes of Idrizov, Mohamed Mokhaev, Ramazan Gitanov. He's been in the training camp with these guys. He's traveling to IMMAFs with these guys. He is, I'm really, really excited for Samir. I hope he goes in there, gets the win like we all know he can, has another fight, and then fights on the big Bahrain card we have in December in front of his home fans.
Absolutely. But that's on the other note, it's always great to fight in Bahrain. And to have your fan base behind you, right? And it's just that homely feeling that you're having there. Your family's around you, your friends are around you, everybody's supporting you. And at a young age, a lot of people think that might add to pressure. But I think at a young age, you might also be really enjoying that feeling, because it's not about, you don't really think, at that age, you don't really think about, oh, that's going to cut my purse or something's going to happen with my future, my earning, But at that time, they're like, wow, this is the feeling I want to feel. I'm fighting and everybody acknowledges that and everybody's following me. They're loving me. They're supporting me. And that's a good feeling.
And that'll be magnified when he comes on a win streak.
Absolutely. But imagine Now, here's the funny thing, right? You need to understand you might have the exact opposite. And I'm just telling from the other side.
Devil's advocate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I was telling that from a sports perspective, I always feared the likes of, we've seen some of the best talents like Boyan and Patos. I mean, some great talents in football that we're looking at them and we're seeing these YouTube videos of them at 9-year-old and 10-year-old. They're like, that's the next Messi, that's the next Cristiano. And we see a lot of these guys. And then suddenly we're like, where did they go?
Yeah.
You know, what happened to that guy?
Yeah.
And that's a lot to do with pressure.
Yeah.
And believe me, I mean, people would say that, no, some of them didn't follow the track of an athlete and so on. So sure, there's a lot of them who gets caught up with the hype and the fun and the acknowledgement that they're getting. But there are a lot of athletes that are actually failing because of pressure that is too much for them to have at that age. And you see some of the best coaches, like the Man United coach, Sir Alex Ferguson, he had this intention of making sure that his team does not become a part of that media news and everything else. A lot of people would misunderstand that too, thinking that, why doesn't he want me to get that fame, you know? But no, it's not always about that. It's about, I understand better. What could that happen? How could that affect you without you not even knowing? Like, this is one thing that you don't know. You're still going into the gym. You're still training every day. You're going and trying to perform the best you can. But there's something that's affecting you and you don't know what. It's almost like a disease that you don't know what it is. You go to the doctor and you can't find it. Yeah. It's not my training. It's not my commitment. It's not my dedication. There's something going on up here that is happening. And that's pressure, man. And those things happen at a young age. With that being said, and I'm always worried about that. And Samia is one of those fighters that you're looking at it and he has all those characters. He is a very likable person. He has a charisma. He's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
He has everything to become a superstar, not just a good MMA fighter, right?
Yeah,
a superstar.
100%, yeah.
And this could be the biggest danger in front of him. And I do understand that what the positive things to look from that is that he has his mentor as Hamza Kohiji.
Yeah.
Hamza Kohiji is the biggest example of how to keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, whatever happens, the biggest things happens in life. He has been one of the key reasons of why His Highness Sheikh Khalid has actually scouted the MMA team. Is Hamza Kohiji was that individual who His Highness Sheikh Khalid looked and said, you know what, who is this guy? Bring him, you know, and I will make sure that there's thousands more Hamza Kohijis and better than Hamza Kohijis in the country. So you're looking at a person who has got that opportunity with His Highness, where we know His Highness Sheikh Khalid has taken any sports and turned them into the best, the biggest, you know, and there is nothing other than success in that roadmap with His Highness Sheikh Khalid.
Yeah.
And when you get the opportunity to be that part of that in the mixed martial art world, your feet, it's hard to keep that feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And then you become the biggest and the best bantamweight in the Middle East history. And then today, for me, even considering one of the best bantamweight in the world, you are on billboards and lampposts of your country.
Yeah.
You have houseful events with just your name being there on the card. When you have all that and you see Hamza Kohiji still having his feet on the ground, I mean, there's no better example for an athlete to see and say that, you know what, there is a positive when we look at the danger in front of him.
Yeah.
You know, I think Hamza Kohiji is that example that he should look at, and being his mentor, I think that is a safe place for Samir.
Yeah, I agree. It's all it's all tracking in the right direction for him.
Yeah, and because it's a long road for him. He's still young.
21?
21 years old, still young. And this is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, his first pro fight outside of Bahrain. And that is exactly what I was telling you about, that the fun part about at that young age to be in Bahrain and have all those people around you and support you and represent your country. There might be an opposite hit when you go to another country for the first time, competing, representing your country again, but this time
You got to make weight when you're not at home.
and
Different
you're in a
food,
different country.
Different country.
And you're fighting against that country's national.
Yeah.
So you're fighting in China against a Chinese fighter in a Brave Combat Federation versus YFU. One of the first promotion event, or the first promotion event of YFU that's happening in China. A big day, a big platform, really, really bright lights, and you're the away team.
let's see what he's made of.
And this is why I think, with everything that we spoke about him, he has the quality to become that superstar, not just a great MMA fighter, superstar. So one of those great characteristics of being a superstar is to be able to deal with situations like this.
Yeah.
Away from home is what makes you that superstar. And he's got that opportunity to make that happen. And like you said, getting that win and coming back to Bahrain and fighting in his home country in front of his friends and family, I think what a 2024 year is it going to be for Mohammed Samir. And end of the year, we want to look back and see how did that go.
100%.
Listen, young, talented. We spoke about experience of Izzuddin. We spoke about the young talent who has a lot to experience. And when you talk about experience, there is another fighter on this card, Picard. Tell me about his experience in mixed martial art. A lot of people might not know it. And for me, signing him to fight in this card, what was the thought process that you went through behind that?
Well, I mean, his resume speaks for himself. I believe he's on fact check me here, but I believe he's on a 3-fight win streak. He's a kickboxing champion, a pancration champion, a hand-to-hand combat champion, and he represents France, and to have all those accolades as a French fighter says a lot. France is, although it's fairly new to MMA because of the legislations that were in place previously,
Absolutely.
It has been a hub for martial arts for as long as I can remember.
Yep.
You have superstars coming out of France in Muay Thai, in kickboxing. So to have accolades like that in France says a lot about a fighter. France is also a huge MMA market now, one that Brave is particularly focused on. We look to go there this year, and he joins the roster of impressive French athletes we have already.
What a personality. I think, listen, Bryce Picard, there is a situation in mixed martial art, what happens with managers, what happens with fans. I mean, there's so much athletes out there. Sometimes you end up having this, I wouldn't say a bad habit, but it's something that it's a natural process that you just go around and look at the record, and then that's the first thing, right? That you go and look at the athlete's record. For me, that's where Bryce Picard's personality is really shown. He is one of those athletes that really, everybody wants to win. Everybody cares about winning. But he's one of those athletes that have a different mindset that loves fighting, right?
Yeah.
You just mentioned that he's a French kickboxing champion, pancration champion. And we're talking about 17 and 18. He was a kickboxing champion in 2017. He was a French national champion in Sanda in 2018. 3-time full contact and pancration champion. All of that happening in his life. And when you know the guys coming from kickboxing and Muay Thai, they have no problem fighting a lot.
And anyone.
And anyone, So you know that they're coming from that mentality, you know. But that's what we've seen in Bryce Picard. When he came into MMA, when he started fighting in MMA, he had that mentality to just keep fighting.
Yeah.
And sure, a lot of people that look at the records are going to see 15-9, which is great record. I mean, I'm not saying the record is bad. It's a fantastic record. But at the same time, you have to understand that that record becomes, for me, 10 times more valuable, knowing that he's an athlete who came into MMA and said that, you know what, I'm going to start fighting and I'm going to go all in. And if 2017 and 18, with all this kickboxing wins, Sanda wins, and all those medals that he's getting outside of it, he enters MMA. And in 2018 and 19, 2 years, he's had 10 fights.
Mental.
So you can literally understand the mentality that he comes from, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't care. And when you see an athlete fighting 10 times in 2 years, you immediately know that he's taking any fight and every fight. Yeah. Like nothing matters for him. He's having the mentality that go in there, fight, and I'm gonna go out and kill the opponent in front of him. And that's the crazy mentality.
It's that Muay Thai mentality.
Absolutely. And you love that mentality to have, where they love to fight. That love for the fight is what we always want to look for beyond anything else. When you have those athletes that love that fight, love the fight game, you're gonna get the best fights, man.
I'm always wary of those dudes.
Yeah.
There's always
and that's where you would see the challenges of the records as well. So when you go and fight, you haven't settled down to understand mixed martial art, understand the cage, understand how the opponents and where they're coming from, where you're fighting. None of that. You just keep on fighting.
Learn by doing.
And you just win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. And you're just going through that scenario. And then for me, I was like, it's really good to see that Bryce Pickard matures after this, because his first 10 fights in 2 years, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? That's where the guys mature to understand. They look back and know that, you know what? This is what happens. But still, what an experience, to learn from it. And then there was COVID time, 20 and 21, and then COVID was done. And you want to see that Bryce Pickard, that experienced fighter. And then he comes back in 2 years and fights 9 fights again.
Yeah.
He doesn't stop. He doesn't.
He doesn't.
He just comes back and continues taking fights back to back, and that's the thing. Now this is 2024. He's going to be fighting his 3rd fight, and that shows that this is an athlete that I've never looked at him the way I look at him now. And when you told me about Bryce Pickard and when we looked at him this way, to be honest, I've changed my mind about this individual. It was no more about anything else. It was about that fighter with that kind of mentality. We want to give him a fight. We want him to be there in Brave. And again, we've seen him in Brave before. It's good to have him back again and to see him from a different light of what his mentality and heart is as a fighter.
And join that bantamweight division.
Yeah.
That stacked bantamweight division.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's where, when I was talking about experience, we spoke about Izzeddin's experience, and we're just looking at the experience of Bryce Pickard the same way, of the amount of fights he does in a short period of time, the background of kickboxing and Sanda and everything else combined together. I mean, if he must have also, in his career, although you're talking about a guy who's fought since 2017 in MMA, but the amount of fights that he's taken, I think that is a fast shortcut to getting experience as well,
100%.
And that's a fantastic fight card. I think we're looking at Bidzina, Borislav, Izzeddin, Bryce Pickard, Olzas.
Almost forgot about him.
Almost forgot about him. A man that should not be forgotten.
No.
A man that should not be forgotten. Every fight that we speak about Olzas, there's one thing. I think even the viewers who are Brave Nation, everybody else, when you hear the name Olzas, everybody knows we're talking about heart.
Yes.
And that's been something that we constantly spoke about Olzas over and over again, that this guy has the heart of a champion, and he's shown that in every single fight that he fights. There's nothing outside of that nobody can doubt Olzas and his willingness in his fight and what he does to his opponent. So it's great to have that heart.
Yeah.
But I would hate to fight a guy with that kind of heart.
100%. We're talking about a guy, we say it every time we mention Olzas, but we're talking about a guy that fought the boogeyman of Brave Combat Federation, Kubanic. He fought him for the interim lightweight belt with food poisoning and took him 5 rounds. He woke up the day of that fight with food poisoning, still got it there with the boogeyman, and took him 5 rounds. Who can say they've done that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's the story of Olzas, that to go in there and make your opponent feel worse than you. So if he was having food poisoning, you should have been really worried. I mean, somebody should have, and I have to say this, it's I think Kubanic should have been informed that he has food poisoning, because that is not a disadvantage for Olzas. That's a massive disadvantage for the opponent, because you know why? He would want his opponent to feel worse than him.
Yeah. Well, this is how much heart he has. We didn't even know he had food poisoning until after.
Yeah,
he didn't care about anything. I'm fighting. I'm not telling anybody anything. I'm just dealing with it, and I'm getting in there.
Master of Combat Sambo, you know that you don't get to that ranks and that titles without being an athlete that have a master mentality, for sure. To have that recognition for him, he's definitely done that. And even in his last fight, you when you look at his last fight against Ruslan Tadiv, you should have. What am I saying? I'm saying that you should have seen that fight. But when you were watching that fight, if anyone who hasn't watched it, believe me, watch it. If you don't know Olzas, don't find out who's Olzas. Just watch that fight, and you would notice that the first time we watch it, we're looking at it and saying that, wow, that guy is gonna eat up Olzas, right?
Yes.
From the look and
We
feel.
go back to the
Oh, yeah.
stacked, intimidating looking fighter.
And that's a
Yeah.
scary look.
Yeah,
And you're
that
looking at
is a
that. You're looking at that guy, and I'm like, wow, this is gonna be a scary one. And he comes, Ruslan is not just scary the way he looks.
The way he fights, yes.
Absolutely, he's
very powerful.
He fights the way he looks.
Yeah.
I mean that's
absolutely, that is bang on.
and then you see the magic or the superpower of Olzas released, which is make your opponent feel worse than you, and he made his opponent feel like.
And he did look great.
Yeah.
He did look great in that fight.
Yeah, absolutely, and you have to, when you go inside and fight Olzas there, you need to know that that's a representation of heart and soul, and and I think that's gonna be very much appreciated in China, a world or country that understands martial art, that appreciates the actual values of martial arts, and that promotes the values of martial arts. And that's the beauty of the history of China and martial arts. And it's always been, whether we spoke about the movies, we spoke about the actors, it's always been movies that gives messages out, that gives you a feeling of the value, the true values of what martial arts is going to bring you as a human being, and why you should have martial arts as part of your life. That's been always something that we've seen from Chinese movies or China when they promote martial arts, and when we see what Kung Fu as a 4,000-year-old martial arts is actually all about.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that a fighter like Olzas fighting in China in this competition, regardless of who is fighting, regardless of its Brave Combat Federation versus YFU, regardless of its Kazakhstan against China, I think that the fans are really going to appreciate the values of what Olzas is going to bring and showcase there. And it will definitely be an honor for the fighter to face Olzas. And I think that's something that many places you won't see that appreciation, but in China, you would definitely know that it's an honor for the opponent to be able to fight a fighter with that kind of values and providing that kind of values.